Cue the music. Good day to you, park friends. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Nicole. We're your armchair adventure guides to what's wild in Medina County.
We have a great episode in store for you today, folks. We'll meet an awesome amphibian, partake in a peaceful park pause, binge on some birds, and get grossed out by gastropods.
That all sounds great. Is this going to be an episode with a lot of puns?
Well, it's really not a one pun and done kind of show now, is it?
That's true. It's going to be pun-tastic. Meet the Animals is up first. Hey Shelly, did you know salamanders like Vern rely on vernal pools for survival?
Yeah, and you share many more cool facts in this clip. I really like how you pooled it together.
This tiger salamander is named Vern. He's an education ambassador at Wolf Creek Environmental Center, and he will often join us on programs to help us teach about wildlife. He is a big salamander. Tiger salamanders on average are 6 to 8 inches long, but can get up to 13 inches, making it one of the largest terrestrial salamanders in North America. It can be challenging to properly care for wild animals. Vern is an amphibian. Amphibians and all other ectothermic animals rely on the environment to regulate body temperature. We have a permit from ODNR to house native wildlife for education. His habitat here at Wolf Creek is full of damp soil. Adult tiger salamanders spend a lot of their time underground. They usually only visit the surface after heavy rains or to travel to vernal pools to reproduce. As adults, they eat primarily worms, snails, slugs, and insects. Let's watch that again in slow motion.
Yum.
Salamanders are interesting creatures because of their life cycle that takes them both to land and water. His name, Vern, is a tribute to vernal pools that are an important part of a salamander's early life. Let's go see where salamanders would live in the wild. A vernal pool is a depression, usually in a forest that collects water from spring snowmelt and rain. These temporary pools of water are excellent amphibian breeding grounds since they are absent of fish. Hundreds of amphibians, including salamanders, will gather at vernal pools in the early spring to reproduce. Salamanders have no voice and do not make noise. Those calling are wood frogs. Tiger salamanders perform courtship, mating, and egg-laying underwater. The females lay eggs in clusters of 30 to 50 eggs and attach them to aquatic substrate and plant stems in water up to 3 feet deep. The larvae hatch a couple of weeks later and feed on aquatic invertebrates and other amphibians until metamorphosis in the early summer. The larvae look a lot like tadpoles. They are entirely aquatic until their metamorphosis, where they will grow back legs and lungs. Let me repeat that. They will grow legs and lungs. Amazing! They will leave their vernal nursery and spend the rest of their life underground, only returning to the pools to mate. Salamanders are an important part of our ecosystem, and their presence or absence can be a bioindicator of the health of forests and wetlands. Salamanders are rarely seen unless you intentionally look for them. Vern and our other animal ambassadors provide unique educational opportunities for folks to connect with nature.
Hey Nicole, did you know that I'm only 1 year older than our very first ever Medina County Park?
I knew you were older than dirt.
Hey!
Just kidding. But the 70s were a long time ago. Check out this Blast from the Past segment on Greenleaf.
Groovy! Greenleaf Park sits at the corner of Route 162 and Medina Line Road in Sharon Township. At any time of the year, visitors to this park will enjoy many of its amenities, including the beautiful picnic pavilion, entertaining playground, small fishing pond, rustic nature trail, and of course, the ever-popular sled riding hill. What they may not know is that this small park has a unique story to tell. Come along with me on a journey that starts in 1971. Six years had already passed since the official formation of the Medina County Park District. There were no property holdings yet and no paid employees. But that was all about to change because the Medina County Commissioners handed the Park District an abandoned sand and gravel mine. The area surrounding the Wolf Creek, which runs through Sharon Township along State Route 162, was rich in mineral resources, with an abundance of coarse, stony sand and gravel deposits left over from receding glaciers. The County Highway Department had taken advantage of these resources by operating a small gravel pit to supply highway projects within the county. Since the 1900s, the pit was surface mined until it was abandoned in the 1960s. The 33-acre donation was going to give the Park District its first opportunity to provide open space for public recreation to the residents of Medina County. It was time to hire a director. Barry Muhall was hired on January 1, 1972, and wasted no time in making plans to turn a paper park district into a reality. He quickly engaged community groups and local companies to assist in the construction of the new park. By the end of that year, and through donations of labor and funds, a pond was dug, sledding hill formed, trails created, trees planted, football field fashioned, and shelters built. Thanks to the hands of many, including local Girl Scouts, Kiwanis clubs, Pee Wee Football League, and construction companies, it was completed in fairly short order, too. While the work of creating the park was taking place, a name was still needed, so in the spring of 1972, local school children were invited to participate in a Name the Park contest. In addition to the naming rights, winners also received a $25 scholarship that would be awarded in their name to their local school. In a May 15, 1972 press release, Jim France, Carrie Guzik, and Cindy Jacobson from Mrs. Judy Wainwright's 6th grade class at Garfield Elementary were named as winners with their submission of Greenleaf Park. Kudos to these forward-thinking students. It was, and still is, the perfect name. Greenleaf Park opened in October of 1972 with a modest ribbon-cutting ceremony, and while it would take a few more years to complete all of the projects, folks were eager to begin taking advantage of what was already available. One of the most unique features at Greenleaf Park is the log cabin, and it too has a unique story. As we know, it didn't come with the property, so how did it get there? In 1973, at the height of the excitement of having Greenleaf open to the public, a fascinating discovery took place a few miles away. Mr. and Mrs. J. Wilson, who lived on Bonita Road near State Route 57, had recently built a new house on their 10-acre property. As they began to remove their old farmhouse so that they could do some landscaping, they uncovered the skeletal remains of a very old log cabin. On one of the exposed beams, a carved marking of A2 Hard 18-4 provided a clue to the cabin's owner. Through research of residents living in the area, it was discovered that the cabin belonged to Abraham and Rebecca Hard, pioneers that came from Vermont and settled in the area in 1818. It was said that Abraham was an earnest and consistent member of the Methodist Church and always ready to sacrifice time, labor, and money for the cause of religion. Thusly, his log home frequently served as a gathering place for religious services. The Wilsons recognized that an important landmark such as this should be saved and sought to donate it to a group willing to remove and restore it. With the aid of the Sharon Heritage Society, the cabin was relocated to Greenleaf Park and restoration work commenced. The cabin was to stand as a monument to early settlers with the goal of helping future generations know and appreciate what past generations contributed to our area. Over the course of the next 6 years, it would take $10,000, countless volunteer hours, and the talents of skilled craftsman Clarence Damon to complete the renovations and open up the cabin for use by park staff for programs. With the property accessible to the public and a few staff and volunteers that could now assist with planning, the Park District started offering nature hikes, day camps, and special events to residents of Medina County. Perhaps you're old enough to remember the Firecracker Bike Race, a 24.6-mile ride between Greenleaf Park and Letha House Park in Spencer. Or maybe you attended one of the annual youth Easter egg hunts or fishing derbies. And if you were a folk music fan and recall the environmental movement happening in the 70s, perhaps you enjoyed the special concert held at Greenleaf by the Appalachian Green Parks Project Players, Ohio's official bicentennial touring group. And don't forget that there were also 3 picnic shelters available for family gatherings, play features for the kids, youth baseball and football fields, the fishing pond, and a fantastic sledding hill. Greenleaf truly had something for everyone. Over the last 50 years, the landscape has changed at Greenleaf. The trees have matured, creating a denser canopy that attracts migratory songbirds. Restored wetlands come alive in the spring with a chorus of different frog species. Additional enhancements like the herb garden around the cabin, planted and maintained by the Medina County Herb Society since the early 1980s, and the more recently planted prairie in front of the cabin attract a plethora of pollinators. And more recent amenities like the new shelter and playground will allow for the making of memories for generations of new visitors. What started out with the poorest of beginnings has become a success story of reclamation and preservation of the environment. A property once disrupted by man was restored to a place where one could commune with nature. On your next visit to Greenleaf, take a moment to step back in time to remember and appreciate how this former gravel pit was one of the best gifts ever received by Medina County Parks, and how it will forever remain a small park with a big story. Up next, Gary Fowler, bird banding volunteer extraordinaire, shares his passion for bird banding and the interesting story about how he got started. Gary's been banding birds at Owenslager Nature Center for many years, and we're always excited to see what he finds.
Hello, my name is Gary Fowler. I am a master bird bander here in Northeast Ohio. I've been banding birds for about 24 years. I fell in love with them because of my spark bird, the pileated woodpecker, many years ago, which took me on the long journey of searching for birds, identifying birds, and so on. And I got a job doing wildlife rehabilitation, and I was getting frustrated because we would fix up a beautiful owl or hawk or warbler or whatever, release it, but we would never know if what we did was good for the bird. And so searching around, I found bird banding and met with a master bird bander, and he took myself and my wife under his wing, so to speak, and we apprenticed under him for about 3 years. And then I got my own master permit back in 2001, I believe. The year after I started the bird band, I was looking around and found a project called Monitoring Avian Productivity and Survivorship, which is a very intense research project that at the time was about 500 different banding stations every year in North America, which is now expanded down into Central and South America, looking at different aspects of birds. And it's very intense, it's very difficult, and I always figured if I can learn this, I can learn anything. And so we ran our map site for about 11 years, which included, getting up at 1 a.m. to check the weather, going down to one of the most mosquito-infested places in the Cleveland area. But it taught us so much. And in the years following, I've gotten permission from the state to ban barn owls, which is pretty unusual. I've got authorization from the feds to ban peregrine falcons and bald eagles. And there is just something about seeing a bird from 6 inches or a foot away that has ruined us for bird watching. I don't want to see a bird anymore through a pair of binoculars. I want to see it right in front of my face. And we've banded somewhere in the neighborhood of 170 or 180 different species of birds. So we've had a lot of experience banding these beautiful things. And every time I band a bird, it's just more amazing than the one prior to it. They're just remarkable, remarkable animals. Their beauty is pretty much unmatched. And just the way they live their lives, how many of the birds migrate from North America down to Central and South America every winter and turn around and come back up. And for a bird that weighs 6 or 8 or 10 grams, that's still astonishing to me. I mean, even a little ruby-throated hummingbird, which can weigh as little as 2.5 grams, will fly down to Central America for the winter. And that's remarkable. I think humans have an innate enjoyment or want to hunt, and bird watching is basically hunting, but instead of with a gun, you're doing it with binoculars. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people enjoy it. Keep on birding and keep on loving the birds.
What an amazing story from Gary. Hey Shelly, are you up for a little pun competition?
Sure.
What time does a beaver go to the dentist?
I don't know. 2:30. All right. Okay. Hey, Nicole.
Yeah?
Where do beavers keep their money?
Where?
Riverbanks!
Oh, brother.
Well, check out this short before these jokes chew up any more time.
Oh.
I think Mark forgot to add music to this part of the anchor spot.
Oh. Well, no worries. I'll just add it in. A bird, 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 a bird is the wada wada, bird, 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 a bird is the wada wada.
Oh, you're such a ham. You picked that song because it's the name of the next segment, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. This episode is really taking a turn for the worst.
Hello everyone, my name is Naturalist Natalie and I'm so glad that you could join us for Bird is the Word. Today we will press pause on our busy days to take a stroll through our Medina County parks in search of temporary feathered visitors better known as migratory birds.
Every year, a few billion birds move north to their summer breeding grounds. As the seasons change, so do the resources available to birds and even their needs. Some will travel as far as thousands of miles to reach their summer homes. Some will be arriving at their summer homes when they reach Medina County. Others will only visit Medina briefly as they pause to rest and refuel on their long journey north. Every day brings the potential for different bird observations this time of year. I wonder what birds we'll see today. Look, over there, a ruby-throated hummingbird. These less than 1 ounce little emerald green birds can appear to be nothing more than a blur as they dart from flower to flower. They can also hover in place as they can beat their wings a few dozen times per second. Down there, in the grass, an American woodcock. Also known by names like timberdoodle, this shorebird seemingly defies logic as it inhabits fields and forests, using its cryptic coloration for camouflage as it bobs along the ground. It uses its bill as a probe to search for its next earthworm meal. Do you see that tree? Follow it up. There's a yellow-bellied sapsucker on the trunk. Since this woodpecker is migratory, we are more likely to see remnant evidence of its presence throughout most of the year. That evidence comes in the form of rows of holes drilled into the tree bark, which is a sign that a sapsucker was there feeding sometime before our arrival. Those holes provide food for the sapsucker as well as other animals like the ruby-throated hummingbird that we saw earlier. Often, we aren't lucky enough to see the actual woodpecker, but lucky us, it is migration and here is a yellow-bellied sapsucker hard at work. Out there, in the meadow, a bobolink! Male bobolinks like this one have a black belly and a white back, making it look as if the bird is wearing a tuxedo. If you cannot see the back, the creamy color of the cap on the back of its head is hard to miss. When they are not perched singing as this one is, they seem to disappear into the fields of grain that they are likely to forage on, making them easy to miss. I'm not sure if you can see it, but down in that shrub, there's a yellow warbler. Yellow warblers are insectivores. If you want to catch a neat look at this little bird that has been described as the same shade of yellow as butter, look for areas of higher insect activity. This shrub, right by a wetland, provides cover for the small bird, but also easy access to the many bugs that call the wetland home. Since they are insect eaters, you aren't likely to find them at backyard bird feeders. But at the peak of migration, a walk in most parks will give you a good chance of spotting this warbler. While they are predominantly yellow overall, you might also notice some rusty red to brown streaking on the chest of this bird, which sets it apart from other similarly yellow warblers. As with many birds, the call can be the one thing that clues us into a bird's presence. If you hear a short but sweet song that sounds as if the bird is saying, "Sweet, sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet," then odds are pretty good that this little yellow warbler isn't too far off. Yellow warbler, perched in a field, with black streaking, a black eye stripe, and an extra black stripe below the eye. This looks like a prairie warbler. A warbler with a green back, white belly with black streaks, yellow head, and a black throat. This is a black-throated green warbler. A yellow warbler with dark wings, white wing bars, and a dark eye stripe. It must be a male blue-winged warbler. Across the trail, in that tree, there's a scarlet tanager. Some say that the song of the scarlet tanager sounds like an American robin with a sore throat. It can be difficult to hear those subtleties initially, so listen instead for the chick-burr note that the scarlet tanager will inevitably sing. Most times, that call will lead your eyes up into the canopy as the scarlet tanager is not usually sitting down in an exposed branch at eye level like this male is. The females are far less showy than the bright red-bodied and jet-black winged and tailed males. If you're lucky enough to see a male scarlet tanager, there is no mistaking it for another migratory bird in this area. Like the yellow warbler that we just saw by the wetland, the scarlet tanager also feeds predominantly on insects. It will, however, also forage for berries and plant buds along the way. After a tasty meal, it is necessary to clean up. Unfortunately, birds don't have napkins or hands, but they do have branches. This scarlet tanager is cleaning up after its bug snack by wiping its beak on the branch, much like we would use a napkin. It is on to the next meal for this scarlet tanager and on to the next segment for us.
Thank you for joining us for this Bird is the Word wander through our Medina County parks. There's no better day than today to venture out on your own birding adventure. So grab your binoculars, head out to your favorite park, and with any luck, you just might catch a glimpse of one of these neat migratory birds.
Gross Science is next. We'll get to see some slugs in action.
Hi, welcome to Gross Science. When I think of gross, I think of slime, and slugs are great at slime. It covers their entire body, creating a barrier that protects the skin and keeps it from drying out. The slime is produced by a gland near the head and also acts as a lubricant to help them slide along. Slugs are able to glide on their own slime, but to anything it touches, it's super sticky. Sticky enough to hold a slug on a vertical surface, or even upside down. Why would a slug need to go upside down, you ask? They climb in order to reach their food. Slugs mostly feed on algae, lichens, fungi, and live or decaying plant matter. They use their radula, a rasp-like tongue covered in thousands of tiny teeth, to both scrape at the food and grind it against the cartilage in their mouths until it is small enough to digest. Slime isn't just for moisture and locomotion. Their soft bodies and slow speed make slugs appetizing food for some predatory beetles, as well as a variety of other ground-feeding mice, shrews, birds, and turtles. Some slugs are dark in color or have mottled patterns to help them hide from predators, but others are brighter to warn any interested parties of their bad-tasting or, in some species, toxic defensive slime. The toxins can be bad for small animals to eat, but not for us to touch. Even slugs with non-toxic slime discourage predators by exuding large amounts of sticky goo when they feel threatened. Slime is also a part of the slug mating process. Slugs are hermaphroditic, each individual having both male and female parts, but they usually exchange sperm with one another. This involves entwining their reproductive organs outside their bodies in a glob of protective slime. Afterwards, both slugs lay eggs, most often in small clusters under logs or in deep leaf litter where they won't dry out. Even though slugs can be pests in your garden, eating holes and leaves, we should be thankful for slug slime. The stickiness and flexibility of its structure has inspired scientists to develop a type of surgical glue that could replace staples or stitches, especially in delicate tissue. If you want to find slugs, keep in mind that despite their protective slime, they dry out easily, so look for them in damp places, under logs, rocks, or leaf litter, or look for them on rainy days. You can also find the shiny slime trails they leave behind, so don't be afraid to get out and touch some slugs to see just how gross, or not, they really are.
Slugs sure are cool and slimy. Shelly?
Hey, I think I found something really cool for the next episode of Wild Medina. Hand me a magnifying glass.
What? Shelly, we're in an episode of Wild Medina right now. Cut. We'll take a break with a peaceful park pause. Volunteer David captures some amazing footage in our parks. How does he get all those animals to sit on him?
I don't know, but maybe we should make him volunteer chairman. Well, that's it for today's episode, folks. Join us next time for another armchair adventure in the Medina County Parks.
Until next time,
stay wild, Medina!